Welcome to Pencils and Lipstick. This is a podcast for indie authors. I'm Kat Caldwell, novelist, short story writer, and book coach. Here on Pencils and Lipstick, we're obsessed with all things story, and it is my goal to bring you the writing tips that you need to
Welcome
make
back, everyone,
your
to
novel
Pencils and
come
Lipstick,
to life.
episode 304. This is the end of March, and last week we talked to Maite about websites, and this week we are going to talk about book covers. I'm talking with Matt from 100 Covers. It was actually his wife that created the company, and they have just come out of COVID flying and multiplying and building their business. And I think you guys are going to be excited to hear from him about book covers and about how you choose your book cover and how you interact with the artist. And if you are listening on March 30th through April 1st, they are actually having a 50% off sale. And so that link is in the show notes below. If you missed that 50% off sale, you should get on their newsletter and get on my newsletter so that you know when that next one is going to happen. And it's usually sometime in the fall. So this is sort of a rare occurrence. It is happening March 30th, 2026 through April 1st, 2026. You can get 50% off, which is pretty incredible. They are just launching back into the indie author space. And honestly, you should look at some of their book covers. They're pretty beautiful. I've worked with them before. They're really great to work with. I have a couple of my novellas. An Audience with the King cover is through them. And my old Stepping Across the Desert is through them. I just recovered it because I have to have the series. So then now the series will match, which is something that you have to do. So we'll be talking to Matt later on in the show. But as I said, it is March 30th as the show goes out. Spring has sprung, and guess what comes along with spring? Nothing more than an Amazon algorithm change. So I'm going to give you guys some notes in the show notes, or links in the show notes, basically, to read about this. But basically, Amazon is cleaning some things up. Some people are happy about it. Other people are not. It looks to me like it's going to force us to be a little more proactive about our sales. This is both good and bad news, I think. Most of us are one-person shows, right? And we are doing everything. But it's good in the sense that they're trying to get rid of this idea of getting that bestseller orange ticket for an hour on some random genre that you really shouldn't be in. And I have to say, this is usually the romance writers. So my people usually do this. And actually, it really annoys me as well. But Amazon is fixing that. So they don't really want books to spike in a genre that they aren't supposed to be in. And it looks like they're trying to make bestsellers really more about permanence on that bestseller list. So checking it every hour is going away. It's going to switch up every day, basically, renew every day. And I have heard that it is going to scan how long people stay on your book page, and that apparently it's going to try to scan your book blurb. If your book blurb does not sound human, it's going to sort of push your book down. I don't know how true that is, but I think that's good in the sense even though we are one people shows, we should be doing our best, even on our blurbs. You should not just have ChatGPT spew out a blurb and paste it up there. Even if you're into using AI, you should be adding your own human voice to it. You should, and honestly, it doesn't really do justice. And sometimes it says things that, just shouldn't be there. I think the best way to write your blurb is to read other blurbs and try to sort of match what your blurb should sound like in that genre. So anyway, I'm going to have some links in the show notes. They are definitely rewarding authors who are putting in the work to keep the customer on the book page. They're rewarding authors for read through. So you're bringing a customer to Amazon and they're buying multiple things. And I guess rewarding means like pushing their book more. I would assume that that's what that means. Read-through rates are going to apparently help you. And if you bring in traffic, I guess that they can link and like visibly see from external sites. So basically running ads on Facebook, Instagram, BookBub, anywhere else, and bringing them to Amazon, that's going to like carry weight to how much they like I guess. Anyway, I'm going to have two links again in the show notes below for you guys to read about it. On one hand, yes, this like, obviously you feel like you have to bring external people by running ads. I have also heard that what's not going to help is people coming in from like promo sites, but I don't know how they're going to know that. But I'm not techie, so maybe maybe their tech can see that, but I would think that I wonder if this means that when you have those days of free books, that's not really going to help you anymore. So maybe if you run a like 99 cent from the promo sites, maybe that will help you, or maybe they won't count it against you. I think they really want you to run Amazon ads. Obviously, they make money doing that. I highly recommend that you get some classes and some knowledge behind Amazon ads before you do it, because it's a really easy way to lose money if you don't understand how they work. And especially if you're not like high in strategy, I am not, or if you just don't really understand data, which I do not. That's something I've been spending time learning. Doesn't come naturally to me. So I think this is also going to, well, everyone says that this is basically going to make you have to strategize, which is not good news for people like me. So you have to strategize, and it's really more about getting your book sort of like long-term permanence on Amazon rather than like spikes, which takes consistency in your business end, right? So anyway, we have talked about author newsletters, and we go into them more in last week's show with Maite, episode 303. This week, we're going to be talking about your book covers, and your book cover is definitely a way to keep, to bring those eyes, both from externally and internally on Amazon, to make people click on things. These things are going to become more and more important, and having strategy about it. So let's get into the interview. Before we do, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, to like this, to comment if you're on YouTube, but to give a review if you are on any podcast app, especially the Apple one or Spotify. It just helps the show. And be sure to check the show notes below to get those links and to read about this. This is not just an algorithm update. This is something that will affect your author livelihood, really. So you need to understand how this might change your strategy as an author. Okay, so more than that, like or this in the same vein, basically, let's talk about about book covers, because those are the things that are going to bring the attention to your book, right? And get the people to click on your book, which will get them to your book page, which apparently is going to help you more now, and Amazon will like you. So we all want to be liked by Amazon as much as we love to hate Amazon, right? Because that's where people are buying books. So let's get into the interview, and be sure to get on my newsletter below. Especially if you've missed the sale, again, 100covers.com. Click the link below and you'll get my coupon code, and you'll get 50% off. Literally, that's insane. So 50% off. And even if you're not ready to get it today, the book cover today, you can buy it today and keep that coupon for later. So let's get into the show, learn about our book covers, how important they are, how to work with graphic designers, what to bring to the table when we order a book cover, and more. All right. Hello, Matt Stone. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
It's good
Good.
to talk to you.
Yeah, you
We are
too.
we're going to be talking about covers because you are kind of the co-founder of 100 Covers, right?
Kind of.
Kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
All right, so let's go into a little bit about what 100 Covers is and how long you guys have been around.
Yeah, I go back. I'm kind of like I don't know, sort of a self-publishing OG, right? Because I published my first ebook online January 1st of 2009.
That is
So
definitely OG.
a little bit ago, but that was I did not put it on Kindle.
Mm,
Kindle was it existed at that time. But at that time, you could just put a PDF on your website and sell it for basically whatever you wanted. I sold it for 1995, I think, and it was like 80-page PDF or something.
yeah.
And I didn't even have a book cover for it.
Oh,
So it
you
was like,
didn't.
yeah, it was like I had like a shopping cart and you could go and click and add it to your cart. But
It
it was
probably
just
looked more like legit back then if you didn't have a cover on one hand.
yeah. Well, it was
I don't
just,
know.
it was the Wild West back then.
It
So,
really was. As long as your SEO is bringing customers to your website.
yeah, I've been
Yes.
doing this for a while. Then I actually published my first book with a traditional publisher in 2001. So I got
Okay.
my 25-year publishing anniversary
Oh my
this
gosh.
year. But yeah, it's so I go way back. And by the way, that first traditionally published book, I still to this day have one review on it, and it was written by my dad. So just because you signed that publishing contract doesn't mean that you become the next John Grisham
Dang
or
it.
anything.
We don't want to hear that.
Yeah. So anyway, but I was successful with my 1995 ebook that I put on my
That's
site. I
so
wrote a bunch
crazy.
more and sold those
1995.
and built a substantial little business that way. And then I got big enough to hire somebody, and his first recommendation was like, "Hey, we got to get you on Kindle. We got to get you
Okay.
on, Create Space, which was the physical book print on demand
Yeah.
service back then, and then get you on Audible as well." And so
Was
step by
Audible
step,
was Audible around back then?
yeah, yeah, it was still well. This was not 2009. It wasn't until 2012 that I hired somebody for the first
No,
time,
you're right. Yeah, 2012.
and
Sometimes that feels really far away, and then you think of it, and you're like, actually, that. I think we're the
yeah.
same age, so you're like, oh yeah, okay. I can remember when I was doing that. That's so funny because
Yeah, it was a while ago.
yeah, but podcasts were becoming a thing, and audiobooks. You didn't no longer had to go to the library, but I mean, yeah, it was a great time to get on it because it wasn't as saturated. Like
Definitely.
even Kindle, like, a
Yeah,
lot
and
of
and I had this big blog that was, I had a big following.
hmm
And so when I launched my books on Kindle, which was, I believe, November 30th of 2012, and I had a bunch of books. Like I think I had like, I don't know, a dozen written at that time that we put on all at the same time. I had a big month that first month.
yeah.
And I didn't know anything really about how it worked. I ran like a 99-cent sale on my most popular book, like right before Christmas. And I think it got up to like, right around top 100 in the Kindle store. And then the timing was perfect, right after
hmm
Christmas. Bunch of people are opening up their shiny new Kindles that they got for Christmas and adding books to it. And I'm right there in all the bestseller lists. And so that worked really well. So I had a really strong debut, and then a couple years later, I was pretty much out of the business and decided I was better suited to help people self-publish and do all those
Mm.
things. And because I was in health and fitness, and yeah, my health and fitness was declining. I knew my future as a health guru was in jeopardy, and I needed to pivot.
Like as we get older, we're like, I'm surprised some of them keep up with it. I'm like, man, some people I still follow are my age, and I'm like, wow, the fact that you've stuck with this and they look the same. I'm like, they've never had like a peak or valley. Like that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, to be fair, I was specializing more in eating disorders, which I've successfully cured
That's
any,
awesome.
any eating disorder I may have had and helped other people do that. But anyways, long story short, I told my friend Rob, who I hired and who got me into Kindle and got me in
Hmm.
print and got me on audiobook. I said, man, this is a great service. You should think about offering this as a business. And so I helped him launch his business. And at the time, my wife, who was really into photography, had just spent 6 months like totally geeking out on YouTube, learning the ins and outs of how to use Photoshop.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I was recording all the audiobooks for Rob's customers for free, helping him
Oh,
out,
oh
you
my
know, just
gosh.
being a bro and having fun. It was 2014. It was still early days and, it was fun. And my wife started doing book covers again just
Okay.
for free. She didn't have any experience, but she'd really learned a lot. And yeah, she started doing book covers and did the first 100 something book covers for Rob's business for free. Kind of, got to make all those mistakes at
Right.
Rob's expense, really. And learned a lot and eventually launched her own, independent book cover design company, 100 Covers, and did that for a while. It was growing. She had a few books actually be very successful, with her covers on it, and specialized mostly in nonfiction at the time.
Okay.
And she was having some health problems and felt like she couldn't really continue. The workload was starting to overwhelm her. And so it was really a coin toss. And I said, do you want me to try to hire somebody and build a business, or should we just shut it down? We had lengthy discussions about it for days. And finally, we decided, hey, if I can hire somebody that's as good or better than you are,
Okay.
then let's see if we can make a business out of this.
So
And
up
so
until
that
that
was,
point, it was just her.
it was just her, right?
Okay.
And, yeah, February of 2018, so a little over 8 years ago, we hired our first person, and he was better than my wife day one. And and we started growing, really fast at that point
Okay.
because he's more versatile. He can do more genres. He's quick.
Mm.
He's all the things that my wife was struggling to be, as her health problems were kind of acting up on her.
Well,
And
and covers
so,
were changing at that point. Like,
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, covers are always changing, right?
yeah,
If you
but they
look at,
got really intricate at that point. Like, I mean, especially self-publishing. Like, I feel like we went rather, we wanted to be, we're starting to become as conscious of it as the traditional publishers, right?
yeah,
Like, you could no longer by 2018 you could no longer get away with a 1995 PDF on your blog without a
yes,
cover like that,
yeah,
that you can't
definitely,
do.
definitely.
And like the
Yeah, standards
DIY covers
increase.
were starting to become like so evident
Yeah.
because none of us knew how to use Photoshop.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's an evolutionary process for sure,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
interesting to see how, the indie publishing community has changed over those years, and not everybody has managed to solve the cover issue and is still putting up crappy covers, but that's another
true.
that's another story for another day. And a
We
lot of people
can,
still fundamentally don't understand book covers and what their role is, which we'll talk about.
yeah.
And but anyway, to complete
So
this really
you
long-winded
got a
story,
guy who was better.
he was better,
Okay.
and then we started growing, and I said, do you know anybody else who is a graphic designer? And he was, yeah, I went to graphic design school. I know lots of
I got a
people.
whole pack of friends back here who
Yeah,
need jobs.
exactly. He had like a whole basketball team of old designer buddies. And so we added four more, and
Wow.
two of those were already better than he was. And then
Wow.
and then one ended up in about a year or two became better than him. And so it was just really interesting. But yeah, we have 55 people on the team now, and it's grown into this beast. We've done 20,000 book covers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy. We
In
had 5,000.
8 years? Like less than 8 years.
Yeah, yeah, less than eight
Wow.
years. We're growing like crazy.
Wow.
Oh, we were up, I don't know, 57% last year, something crazy,
My gosh.
which
So
is,
I'm glad
yeah, it's
that like
wild.
the coin toss worked out.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah,
nice.
it worked out. It's
That
so
is
much
nice.
fun too. I'm really enjoying it, and the team that I built, we're a lot of them are friends and family members of former earlier members, and
Yeah,
so we built this sort of organic family oriented type of team. And
that's very cool.
yeah, it's quite fun. It is like a big family, and yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
cool, lots of
So
love.
let's talk a little bit about what you just said on like the fundamentals of a book cover and how we can miss it. I think especially like authors, I mean, I would think that designers don't miss it, but authors, I think, miss it a lot. We don't really understand what goes into making one, and I don't think half the time we understand what to ask for.
Yeah.
Like, um, I think there is something like a gut reaction when you can see something that doesn't look good. You're like, oh, I don't like that. But those of us who don't have a design eye don't really know what it is that we don't like. Like, what does that
Yeah,
mean?
well, I mean, I have a different philosophy that I've come to, I don't know, believe over the years after doing this a lot, seeing a lot of book covers, and it's not just book covers, right? I used to run a book cover promotion site where we did about 5,000 promos. And
Mm,
so, I got to see what was working, what wasn't.
okay.
I got to see lots of numbers there. And in 2016, I helped, my friend and colleague Brian start a book advertising agency doing AMS ads. And yeah, we've done over $1 million worth of ads there and looked at
Okay.
things like click-through rate and done ads on BookBub as well. And the book cover is so incredibly important. So, and we've tracked the performance of our 20,000 book covers that we've designed on
Oh,
and that are on Amazon. So we're really interested in results. We're like
okay.
book cover scientists trying to figure out how to, get books to sell. So one of my sayings is that any competent graphic designer can make a pretty rectangle, right? But when it comes to like actually making a book cover that will sell a book effectively,
Okay.
perform well in ad campaigns, yeah, it's a very different animal, and it requires more information than it does artistry.
Okay.
It requires a lot of research to identify trends and figure out ways to, get those trends showing up on the book cover so that the people in the market who read a certain type of book can immediately recognize that
Okay.
as their kind of book. So just quick example, like the scene behind me, I live in
Hmm.
Wyoming. Think Westerns, right? If you want to make a book cover that appeals to people who read Westerns, it's not about being super creative. It's not about being innovative. You can't have, it's got to be very specific what's on that cover. It's got to be cowboys. It's got to be horses. It's got to be mountains, maybe a cactus in there and some canyons if it's more southwestern than up in the mountains. But that's exactly
Okay.
what has to be on the cover. And if those are on the cover, then people who read Westerns will immediately see that book cover. They scan looking for horses and cowboys. Their eyes are looking all over the page,
That's interesting.
trying to find those books that look like the type of books that they like to read. And I'm the same way. I like Westerns and like movies and stuff. And
Right.
I see
Well,
a thumbnail on Netflix with mountains on it. I'm like,
you're
I'm there.
you're clicking immediately. It
Yeah.
is really interesting because I was talking. I live in DC, so a lot of my friends are high intellectuals who claim that they don't read romance novels. So I was arguing with them, and somebody mentioned Fabio, kind of like in this is like disdain. And I was thinking about like the Fabio book covers. They did their work, right? And their covers were like the same. But
Yeah.
if you read the books, I was like, you have no idea what was behind the book, because I was telling them about certain books that they're like 500 pages long. These little books, they were intricately like researched, and half the time it was somebody was like a composer, and the writer had to do like have all this knowledge about what they were doing in the 1700s, but the cover was Fabio, like,
Yep.
with his hair blown
Everyone.
out, like his hair's down to his chest, and his chest is bare and all that. Like the cover doesn't actually tell the story. The
Yeah.
cover was just to bring the eye to them. So right before we were talking, I was thinking about that. I was like, that's so interesting. But as a writer, half the time we want the cover to tell the story.
Yeah. Well, it's really, to get even more egregious here, um, book covers are product packaging. They're not art. People don't buy it and put it on the wall.
Yeah, that's going to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it requires, you have to be artistic to be able to make one of these things. I can't
Yeah.
make book covers. I'm not a designer. But at the end of the day, it's product packaging, and the role of a book cover is to basically make a clear visual statement about
Mm,
what type of book that it
yeah,
is.
what type of book it is.
There's already, millions and millions of readers of romance.
Yeah.
And so if you have, let's say, a sports romance, for example, that's big lately, hockey romance.
Hockey.
Um, if you have if you have a hockey romance,
Yeah.
your job with a cover is to make sure that everybody who reads hockey romance and sees that book cover knows immediately that that's hockey romance. It's about being super obvious.
Right.
So it's not about being different. It's not about being creative. It's not about standing out. It's about just being clear, obvious, hitting them over the head, making the most hockey romance looking cover that ever existed so that there's no ambiguity whatsoever about what
Right.
type of book it
Yeah.
is. And so that's very different than how most people see book covers. And once you
How
start,
writers want their book covers to be. Like that's
yeah,
probably the biggest disconnect. Yeah.
yeah, because as writers, we want to be innovative, we
Yeah.
want to be new, we want to be different, we want to be Nirvana,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Um,
It doesn't work for everybody though. Like, you might be that one standout. And to be fair, somebody has to change the trend always, right? There's always
always.
that one person that changes the trend, but most of us aren't going to be that person. And usually that person's going to be traditionally published with a big, huge marketing campaign behind them.
Exactly. If you have a big following and you have a big publisher and a big marketing campaign, then you don't have to play by the rules,
Right.
right? But if you're a small self-published author, you don't have a big following, the best way to increase the probability of your success is to write a book that's similar to what's already a current bestseller, a hot bestseller right now. Write something like that and then give it a cover like that.
Right. Right.
Your chances of success will absolutely skyrocket from doing that, which is a little counterintuitive because a lot of self-published authors also believe that, we can't go compete head to head with the biggest sellers and the biggest genres. And in my experience and all the tracking that we've done, it's the authors that wrote books that were very similar to Frida McFadden that
Mm,
and had covers that looked very
yeah.
similar to Frida McFadden with doors on it.
Yeah.
You know, those are the ones that had massive success. We're talking tens of thousands of reviews in some cases, like big success. And yeah, it came from doing some like, hey, this is hot right now. I want to do something like that, give it a
Right.
cover like that. And it works. Like it's
It does.
very effective. And so yeah, the most important thing when you get a book cover designed anywhere is find a couple of really great examples from current best-selling books and try to identify those trends in your genre. What makes a poetry book look like a poetry book? What makes a psychological thriller look like a psychological thriller?
Mm,
What makes a billionaire romance look like a billionaire romance? I know I'm using all fiction examples here. We can talk about nonfiction as well, but the book cover is more powerful in fiction than it is in nonfiction.
Yeah.
And so, anyway,
Well,
that's doing all that research, identifying those trends,
right.
picking a couple of good, hot, current, best-selling covers to use as models, as examples. And your designer can see it as well. It's very easy for them. They see good examples. Make something like this. Okay. Then you and the designer are aiming at the same target, and that makes the process a lot more efficient. And it's not, oh, make me something. Oh, I don't like that. And then, there's this lengthy back and forth that becomes really tedious for everybody involved. This simplifies the process as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and understanding that fundamental. I like how you say it's the marketing package. You have to find I always look at the bigger genre and then narrow it down to the smaller genre. You have to start in romance, what's coming, when was it
mhm.
published, how hot is it still, and then you have to niche down into like if it's closed door versus open door. You better know those like nuances. I think a lot of authors are the problem is a lot of times they're at the end of the the phase. They're about to get the book out and they just want it done and they don't want to do that research. But I'm looking at your guys's page and like the every book cover that I see on here, you can tell what the genre is. Like you can tell why somebody would click on it.
Yeah.
Which is the entire point. Because
Yeah.
you need somebody first to click on it. Like if you have that ad and you're spending money on an ad, half the time all they can really see is the book cover. That's it. They need to actually click on it. And we all know like bag book covers. They, I don't know where that saying of "don't judge a book by its cover" because we do. Like I don't know how like who even started that. That's such a silly thing to say. Probably back when book covers weren't anything.
Yeah. Well,
They were just plain.
I think people make huge assumptions about what a book is like based on its cover, is a
Yeah.
good way to alter that saying. And people usually look at book covers in today's modern environment for maybe a half second, right?
Yeah, true.
That's all that really, it's got to like, they got to get some snap judgment and then go click on it.
Yeah.
And the book cover is central to your click-through rate on your ad campaigns. I saw a really interesting stat lately that came from KDP, I believe, that 80% of ad campaigns fail when the click-through rate is less than 0.04%. Sorry, 0.4%.
Point four. Oh,
Yeah, and the book cover is literally like the only thing that's involved in that click-through rate. It's the sole driver of click-through rate. And
yeah.
so it's a really, really key important number, and your book cover does all the heavy lifting there. And I would say, I mean, from my experience, I would say in nonfiction, your cover is probably, saying a good cover. Like if you have, we're talking the perfect book cover. If you have the
Mm-hmm.
perfect book cover, that book cover will probably drive 20-25% of sales of your nonfiction book. The more important thing in nonfiction is what is your subject matter, what is the title, what is the book description,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. That carries more weight usually in nonfiction than the cover. But if we're talking the big genres, anything romance, anything fantasy, anything sci-fi, anything thriller, the book cover can be up to 80% of what's driving your sales. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
importance is massive. And it's really wild for me to see that we've had books out there that average 3.8 stars, 3.9, and they still blow up and end up with 13,000 reviews and sell tens of thousands of copies.
Yeah.
Even though the books obviously are not really blowing people's socks off,
Right. Right. Right.
with their 3.8 review, maybe 3.6 on Goodreads or something like that. We have a lot of books that, are not exactly Fourth Wing, which is a great book. I don't know if you've read that yet.
It's in my pile, but I went to a book
Yeah,
sale the other day. I thought the worst thing you
yeah.
can do.
Yeah, no, I have I have a 20-year-old daughter and I try to read some of her books so that we can kind of hang out and be
Yeah,
nerdy
of
together.
course.
But Fourth Wing, like, it's not targeted to a guy like me at all. But I read that book and like literally like got up off the couch like twice. Like, what? You gotta be kidding me.
I like her books. I've read other of her books. She is a good writer.
Yeah,
And the reviews are a whole nother beast these days. They've all changed. But
yeah.
even as I look at your guys' covers, I can see how there's one cover here that's clearly going for the like Tuesday Murder Club.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you
Which
know,
that was very successful, and that's one of my favorite examples
yeah,
to bring
I
up.
mean, but if I want more of Tuesday Murder Club, why wouldn't I click on that? That's where,
Oh,
like, we have to realize that when we're done with, like, watching Bridgerton or Tuesday Murder Club or whatever, we want more. We always want more as humans. And so that's the essence you're trying to, like, capture and make them come to your book, you
definitely,
know? So
definitely.
you need to
That's
know that
exactly
as an
how I think
author.
of it. That's
Yeah.
exactly how I think of it. Your book cover should try to look like what somebody who read such and such books is going to read next.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who read Thursday Murder Club, what are they hungry for? What is their next book going to
Is
look
it
like?
Thursday? Is that Tuesday? Thursday Murder
Yeah,
Club.
Tuesday. Any day of the week is
That
fine.
murder.
Yeah, maybe you should write Tuesday Murder Club. I think that would be plagiarizing it all. But no, we have, if you go to Thursday Murder Club and similar books like it, like the Russell Cooper book you're mentioning on the site, if you go and look at customers also bought,
Mm.
your mind will be blown at how all the covers look the same.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. Like the original Thursday Murder Club, right, has murder in all caps in red. And it's on a cream background and it's got a red outline around it, right? And there's so many books in that genre, that sort of cozy Richard Osman genre, that have a word, often murder as well, all
I want to see
caps,
this.
red on an angle. So the original Thursday Murder Club book cover has changed, right? They came out with the Netflix series, so it's a little bit different.
Whenever they go to the Netflix series, I find that so
I know they ruin everything.
they
Housemaid
do.
used to be a blue door, and now it's, you know,
I know I think
actors.
they always ruin it, but so what when we're coming to look for a book, a cover, like again, a lot of times, especially if somebody's newer, maybe it's their first or second book that they're publishing, and they need this cover. It is a bit of a mystery of like, how do I get myself together? How do I find it? So you're saying like we go, if I click on this book and then I say, okay, I want to, it fits into cozy mystery with maybe detectives who are amateurs, so I'm going to look and find,
Yeah.
the also bots there. But what are the some other things that we have to keep in mind as we're looking for covers? Or maybe we're looking to change our covers. Maybe they weren't that great to begin with, and we're going to
Yeah.
try to do it better this time.
Yeah, doing a refresh is always good. So you see even big successful books, they refresh their covers
Mm-hmm.
periodically, especially in the fiction genres.
Yeah.
So, that can give new life to a book, even that's already very successful, where
Yeah.
everybody knows what the cover looks like. You can change the cover and, get another little flurry of sales activity from that. But
Right.
I would say looking at the bestseller list, going and trying to look at, what is closest to your category as possible. Now, even in a niche category, there's going to be lots of different books that are like yours and lots of
Okay.
different books that aren't like yours. So you're kind of like narrowing it down, narrowing it down. This book isn't really like mine. This one's more like mine. This is probably the target audience that I'm going for. And looking at books that have, definitely over 1,000 reviews for sure,
Okay.
and narrowing it down, and then looking at when it was published, right?
Okay.
A lot of books are still in the top 100 that were 10 years old, and their book cover may have set trends because of its success for many, many years, but the new trends may be different. And so
Okay.
if you can identify books that were published in the last 1 to 2 years that have over 1,000 reviews that are on the bestseller list,
Mm.
those are going to be those are kind of the proven winners. Hey, these are working. This
Okay.
book cover is working to sell this type of book right now. And that's where you want to be looking. Those are what you want to be discovering. And of course, there's room for personal taste. You might like the book covers of Fourth Wing a lot better than you like the book covers for Court of Thorns and Roses, which
Hmm.
they're very different book covers. So yeah, you'll have to look through, there's room for your own personal taste a little bit in there. And you'll have to think about your story, you know.
Okay.
If there are no if there are no doors in your story, I can't imagine a story with that couldn't put a door in there somehow. That a house, a building, some kind of dwelling, then you can't put a door on your book cover. You might have to go with another thing that's trending in the
Right.
genre. So, talking psychological thriller, you could put wedding rings on there. That's another trend. You
Right.
could put a cabin with a little window that's lit up, or a house with windows that are lit up.
Well,
Those
I've
are
heard
other.
that those are usually female driven psychological family thrillers. So there's
Yeah.
the you get really niche
There's
down.
the female women and sleuths,
Yeah.
mystery and sleuths category. Yeah,
And
there's
the book cover will actually see, but you might not know that if you're not listening to you talk, and like, or if you're just looking for a book cover out there, you
yeah,
have to really niche down, like the door, like versus the window. It actually says something different
yeah.
to the reader. Like, and internally, they don't even know, but it does mean something. And so if you have like the wrong book cover, and then you get the wrong reader,
Yeah, for
you're kind of
sure.
in trouble.
Yeah, for sure. And these trends that, like you said, they come from somewhere, and they come
Yeah.
from what's hugely successful.
Right.
Another great case
Yeah.
in point is Colleen Hoover's "It Ends with Us." It's about a woman, Lily Blossom Bloom or whatever, who
Her
owns a
names
flower
are
shop.
so funny.
I know she really worked hard on that one. Um,
She wrote it when she was like pretty young. But yeah, she started a trend.
yeah, there
Um,
were flowers on
Flowers
romance
everywhere.
covers for years because of that.
Yep.
50 Shades of Grey coming out with a book that is black and white. Half the covers in billionaire romance, which was a category basically solely created by E.L. James or whatever the name
Yep.
is.
Yep.
That category was almost created by her, and till still to this day, half the covers are still in black and white.
Yep.
'Cause
Absolutely.
the trends are still really obvious, and that some trends are very quick, some are very long and last for forever. It's just a matter of getting in and knowing what's out there and taking a look and use current best-selling covers as your
Okay.
North Star when it comes to figuring out what your book cover should look like. And yeah, you can actually get pretty close to what another best-selling book cover looks like without infringing upon any, copyright laws or anything like that.
Oh,
Frida
interesting.
McFadden does not own the copyright on blue doors,
Okay.
or red doors or any kind of doors or windows or yellow text or any of those things. It's all fair game to, use some of those same elements
Is there
and
anything that you
fonts.
can't use?
Um, we've never gotten in any hot water over anything like that. We did have an author contact us once who thought that we used an image from their cover that was like custom created for them.
Mm.
And we showed him the stock image. We're like, dude, it's not Shutterstock. Like anybody can use that image, and he apologized, and that was
Okay.
that.
Oh well, at least
So,
he apologized, and you might as well ask, and if it worries you, but like fonts and all that, is there anything that people have to be aware of as far as fonts go or images go? Like, does the author need to purchase the images or
no,
like?
no, no. We still stick to mostly, commercial free fonts and stuff like that, but we make sure the fonts are okay to use. All the images that we use are from Shutterstock, where we have literally like I think their biggest account. We have we have we have I forget how many images we have a month. I think it's like 3,000 images a month or something that
Okay.
we use now. And yeah, which is nuts. And then we do custom illustration as well. It doesn't cost extra. It's just if you're, especially like with the popularity of these little illustrated covers for romance. I
Hmm.
mean, it used to be just rom-coms, and now it's sneaking into
It's
everything.
everything. It's
Yeah,
kind
even
of
I
annoying.
saw some billionaire romances even recently that
Yes, I
didn't have
have
a
to.
handsome guy in a suit on there. It actually still had like a little cutesy illustrated look, and it's starting to
That
creep
might
up.
start to make it's already creating problems because readers no longer know what they're getting, which is kind of
Yeah.
a weird thing. But so as the author, when they come to you 100 covers, they don't have to worry about getting licenses for the fonts or the
No.
pictures or the. If they come with a picture, is that something that people do or
Yeah,
not?
people do that. I would say it's a little trickier. And
Mm.
one of the common thing that's happening right now, Kat, is people are coming up to us with AI mock-ups, right? So they go
Oh, well, that
to an AI
okay.
version and they say, "This is what I want it to look like."
Do it
And
exactly like this.
yeah, and I don't want to. You mentioned early on in our discussion here, the designer knows what they're doing.
Hmm.
Designers don't necessarily know what they're doing because they're not out there selling books and seeing what works and what fails. They're not looking at, ad campaigns and seeing what the
Hmm.
click-through rate is and things like that. So they don't really get an opportunity per se to see what actually is working, and they can just kind of make a pretty rectangle. So, it's important to give them the right information,
Okay.
and it's important, as an author, it's okay for you to quarterback the process of your design somewhat if you're well informed, right?
Yeah,
If you know what you're doing,
it's
you've
a
done
good
your
caveat.
research, you have a clear vision, you
Hmm.
know the purpose of a book cover, and if you're armed with the right information, the right philosophy, the right research, you absolutely can guide the design process and not turn it all over to the designer. One of the worst things you can do is say, "Well, I'm not creative, so I'll let you just do whatever your creative vision is." And I mean, that just invariably turns into a big nightmare because
You're right.
someone's creative vision is just could be anything. And then, oh, I don't really like that. Can we do this? And yeah. So showing up with a picture, to me, or an AI mock-up that's a little too much. I would
Okay.
rather you show up with two current best-selling covers in your niche that we can use to model yours on.
Hmm.
Not thinking so much about your book and your story, thinking designing more for your genre and your readers than,
Yeah.
your target readers. That's who you're designing for, not necessarily always trying to represent your book. You don't want to
Yeah.
be inaccurate.
Right.
You don't want, aliens on there if there's no
if
there's no
it's
invasion
historical,
happening.
yeah.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course, you want
Regency romance with
right.
aliens.
Right.
But
If it's a wide choose, you probably will have two men on there, not just one. But so like little things, but like we said before, you're really trying to capture that in between essence, right? Like I just finished this book, now I'm looking for something more, something of the same. I want that feeling, that flavor, that vibe to continue. That's what we want.
yeah.
That I think that's the hardest thing for authors to really accept because it
Well,
is
it's
said
not
over and over.
everybody's, yeah, not everybody's capable of writing books in whatever genre. You can't just wake up and, oh, thriller's trending, so I'll write a thriller. Not everybody has the
I
skills,
wish. I wish.
competency, desire.
Yeah.
Maybe they've never read a thriller in their lives, and what are they going to do? Go write a thriller? So you have to stick with what you know. You have to do
Hmm.
what you do best, and you have to write a book that's interesting to you. I mean, it
Yes.
would be drudgery to try to just piggyback on all the trends and never stop to think about what you might want to enjoy writing or be good at writing. But you should at least, once you know who you are as a writer, you should follow the trends in that niche and try to keep up with them when it comes to both your
Mm.
writing and your book cover. And if you do that, your odds of success skyrocket for sure.
True. True. So when they come to 100 covers, what are the things that you offer them that um I guess this is your sales pitch. Like I think some people still look on Fiverr. Um I have worked
We'll
with
have to
lots and
bleep that.
lots
We'll
of
have to
people.
bleep that out.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll have to bleep that
it's
out.
I would not recommend it. A lot of people will get like their neighbor, their friend, or they're looking on pre-mades. I mean, I scour the web
constantly for this stuff and looking at prices and all these things. So what is it that 100 Covers gives to people? Like, why would they stop at your your site and not look anywhere else?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that's super compelling is price. Obviously, we are able
Mm-hmm.
to do this a lot more affordably than the vast majority of book cover design services.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're saving money on a cover that's going to perform worse, then you're probably costing you money, not saving you money. And so,
Right.
I mean, I know for a fact that our book covers out in the market are performing better than even the book cover services
I
that
mean,
cost two
that's
grand.
already curious that you follow them. I think most people sell those pre-made covers and I mean, why would they continue to follow them?
Yeah.
I've never heard of a company following their book covers just to see if they're
I've
working or not.
I mean, I've always been super interested in success, right?
Okay.
Going back to helping my buddy Rob start his own, little publishing hustle or whatever in 2014, immediately it was killing me that people were paying maybe a couple $1,000s to publish their book, and then they weren't making $2,000 or more. I was like, couldn't sleep at night over that, right? And so that's when I launched my book promotion service, right?
Okay.
Okay, we got to have a place for these people to launch their books successfully and get some sales. And so, by May of 2014, I launched Buck Books, and we were putting together big sales and doing promos and helping people get their first at least couple hundred paid downloads. And in 2014, that was really significant. That could have a permanent impact on,
Mm-hmm.
how you perform in the algorithm, having a nice launch like that.
Right.
You're probably going to launch number one in all different kinds of categories if you can get a couple hundred downloads in a couple days, which we're able to do that for people. And so, yeah, I mean, I've always been super driven by helping people actually be successful. And it's kind of funny. I was super focused on nonfiction. That's what I wrote. That's what I was successful in, and that's what my wife was designing covers for to start. And but yeah, where we're seeing the most success now is definitely the mass market fiction genres,
Mm.
and it's not that hard to compete at all. If you go into the market with an on-trend cover that makes a clear statement that it's a book like
Mm-hmm.
fill in the blank
Right.
successful book author,
Right.
etc.
Right. So when we come to 100 Covers, and I've worked with you guys, and I think the process is pretty amazing, especially having worked with, I've done it all. I have had
Yeah.
my brother, my very first cover was my brother, that I went to Fiverr, this was like 2017, 2017, so I've worked with lots of people, and I was surprised by your guys's, like, your work path, I guess, and how things get done because of my previous flops on
Yeah,
covers, I would
for
say.
sure. No, I've
So
got the worst covers in the world, so you don't have to be embarrassed.
like, oh, you think, what's interesting to me is like an author, at least my brain is like, okay, I get it. I think this is what I should be doing for a cover. And then you get it done, and a few months later you go, yeah, that's not how I should have approached this at all. So your guys is, you go and you fill out the form, and you have sort of a moderator between the designer, and why did you set it up how you set it up, and how have you seen that work with between authors, the success that you've had?
Yeah, well, just going back quickly to why people use our service and why it's superior. Ultimately, our design team has a philosophy that guides them, and I'm kind of the Coach Matt in there, helping them get better, helping them improve, holding them accountable. Freelancers don't have that. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
a coach. Even LeBron James has coaches and personal trainers and all these advisors and things. And that's kind of what, a freelancer needs too to really improve their craft over time. So our design team, like they've gotten much, much better over time as they've had, some proper leadership and coaching, and, they get all these, financial incentives for their performance. They have someone leading them to get better, and that's extremely valuable.
Yeah.
And I'm somebody who's been in the publishing industry for a long time.
Right.
And I've been, like I said, millions of dollars of ad campaigns, 5,000 book promotions, now overseeing, the performance of 20,000 book covers in the real world. This is valuable information
Yeah.
that kind of trickles down to them. And then, freelancers, you're just not going to get that. And the fact that you can use our service for, less money than what you pay elsewhere, is just crazy. And that was kind of what we always wanted to do, was have, big traditional publishing quality book covers at self-publishing prices. And I would say, like, we've exceeded even my expectations. I didn't think that people using our service at our prices would be the ones selling the most books in the market, but that's ultimately what's happened over the last few years. So, but yeah, we when people submit a form, and I have a good detailed video on how to best fill out that form after you've made a
Okay.
purchase, and you provide the information that we want. You get a project manager, and that project manager is basically the liaison between you and the designer.
Mm.
I don't want the designers emailing customers. They design a lot better than they write. So we have very competent communicators who are communicating with
Yeah.
you. And then those people communicate with the design team. So they're literally copying and pasting everything that you send and posting it for the designer. Sometimes another designer, gets called in because somebody's sick, they're on vacation,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case may be. And so we have a full, like, detailed written record of everything that you've communicated about every draft that's come along. So we could easily have, other designers step in, which is another great thing about using our service.
Yeah.
If you're using a freelancer, um, they change careers like on a whim all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have so
Absolutely.
many people who get their book covers designed by some person, and then they go back to that person for the next in their series or something. That person is a realtor now or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we avoid that, and we have full record of all your files and all that
Okay.
kind of stuff. But yeah, the project manager role is pretty simple, and they're just the liaison between you and your designer, so that your designer can do what they do best instead of communicating poorly with you and
Well, and
writing
I
emails all
think
day.
feelings can get high, emotions can go high. You have two artsy people, like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I would say that sometimes the first rendition of your cover, talking to the authors out there, you'll probably quickly realize that you did not communicate, even as a writer, you did not communicate well what you wanted or what your genre was, and so I've had that where you're like, that's not at all like what my cover needs, but it's good to have a person in the middle saying,
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna go
Yeah,
more
for
this
sure.
way. It's
Yeah.
happier, or it's darker, or it's whatever it is. How long should somebody set aside? How much time should somebody set aside for getting that
Um,
cover?
we've gotten faster over the years, and we do first drafts in a week or
Okay.
less.
Okay.
So, and we take getting it right on the first try very seriously. Designers win bonuses for, kills, we call them. And about half of our designs we get right on the first time.
Mm.
So, if it goes into revision and there's lots of rounds of revision, that can take, a long time.
Okay.
I got horror stories I could share
Oh, sure.
about the revision process. Not that it's very often that it turns into, a nightmarish scenario that lasts for weeks and sometimes even months. But that obviously adds time, and you can't really predict how long that's going to take to go through the revision process. So hopefully we get it right for you,
So
or very
filling out
close
that
to it on the
form,
first try. Yeah.
yeah, filling out that form is probably the most important.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, with any book cover. Like, so you're talking about price, just so that people know, the ebook pack starts at $100. Is that where the
Yeah.
name comes from? 100 covers, or
Exactly.
is it okay?
You're smart. Not everybody puts that
Well, you also
together.
said she had 100 covers under her belt, so I was like, I wonder if that's where the name came from.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
got multiple meanings for sure.
yes.
So,
But the plus pack, like with everything, I mean, that usually adds on the paper book and then paperback and then the social media. That's 400. And so that's actually cheaper sometimes than a pre-made ebook cover.
Yeah. Yeah, the packages are one, 200, and 400. The $100 is ebook and audiobook. So any
Oh,
digital
and audiobook.
format. Yeah,
Okay.
audiobooks included in all of our packages. The print pack at 200 includes any kind of print version you need. So it could be anything from an Ingram Spark, case laminated, jacketed, hardcover, any kind of hardcover or paperback for KDP Ingram, any other platform. That's all included in that print pack, and that's what most people get. But the plus pack, which includes A plus content, for some genres, that's like non-negotiable. You have to have A plus
Hmm.
content to perform. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a little section that shows up from the publisher on your Amazon sales page, which is great. It really adds a lot of credibility to your book when it has a big section that says from the publisher. There's no
Hmm.
better way to look like you're not a self-published author working in your pajamas at home from home than having a big thing that says from the publisher with these beautiful images.
Right.
But there's some genres that are, you have to have that to really sell your book effectively. And that's included with that, along with basically any other images that you want and need. So it could be ad images, Facebook banner. We've done t-shirts, hats, tote bags, I mean, just crazy stuff. Bookmarks, cover reveal images,
Nice.
anything that you need is basically we'll include that in that package. It's sort of an everything package. And the coolest part is that we run sales, and we got a sale running right now through midnight Eastern time on April 1st.
Right.
Everything's 50% off with the CAT coupon, KAT. So cat
50%, like every pack is.
50% off. Yeah. So we're talking 50, 100, and 200 for those packages. And yeah, we run those sales every now and then. And this is good opportunity to try it out at a really, really low price.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty wild.
Can
And you can
can
order as many as you want, no
Okay.
expiration, all
That's
that
what I was
stuff.
just going to ask you. So if
Yeah,
if
yeah.
somebody plans on writing a series, they could buy the packages now.
Yes, for sure. We have people, if I would say don't go beyond a year. They'll be thinking
Yeah.
about like this 10-year plan and order all your book covers today. There's no expiration ever. We have people come back after several years
Hmm.
and be, hey, I ordered. Do you still have my file? Can I still do it? But yes, of course you can still do it. There's no expiration. But yeah, you can order as many as you want and be thinking about your publishing plans for the next year or so that you're 100% certain that you're going to write those books. We always think we're going to write more than we actually write.
Oh yes.
But but yeah, you can order as many as you want, and you can also start small if you don't, know what you need or what
Right.
formats you're going to publish in. You can always just get the ebook pack and upgrade later.
Okay.
So no
Okay.
pressure. But yeah, there's just we run these sales for 3 days, and this one goes until, like I said, like 11:59 Eastern time
Yeah, that.
on Wednesday, April 1st, and you can
So
use
March
that coupon
30th,
code.
2026 to April 1st, 2026.
Yeah.
So this is why you have to listen to the podcast the first few days.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want to miss it. Yeah, you'd be out of luck.
You
But yeah,
don't.
Kat's got your link in the show notes, and
Yes, we will have the link in the show notes. And I just, in case you don't want to like buy a whole pack now, you do have like once you are a customer, you have a little bit of a coupon as well. So you don't have to buy like 5 packs right now either if you have a five book series. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not
If you do become a customer, you will hear about our annual sale we run every
right.
year, which is usually around Black Friday.
Right. Don't freak
Um,
out authors. I know authors are
yeah,
always trying to save money, so they're always
that's good.
like I know people who actually like own covers that they're never going to use. One last thing before do you guys do the inner formatting? Because I
Yeah,
know that's becoming a thing with authors where they're just like I don't want to do this anymore.
yeah. No, I can't imagine doing my own formatting. I'm not staring at the screen for long periods of time. Like, just really makes my head get screwy.
Well, and the fact that like something always goes wrong. I always tell my customers, I'm like, something will go wrong. This will take a good 10 days. You will find something. And then no one ever believes me.
Yeah,
There's always something. So
yeah.
you guys do it. Okay.
There's great do-it-yourself tools out there like Atticus. It's really
Yeah.
great.
You just got to
But
have the patience.
yeah, you got to have the patience, but also, you don't quite have the customization potential that you have by
Okay.
using us. So if we design your cover and we've licensed fonts and images for your cover, we will weave
Uh,
those into the interior in a creative way. So
that makes
we might,
sense.
your chapter heading may have, an image that was taken from the cover. Your chapter headings may have the font that's exactly the same font and written in exactly the same style as the title that's on the book cover. We do for books that call for it, table of contents, and we do it, for print as well as for ebook. And so that's all included. And we charge 200 for that. And that one usually doesn't, we don't usually run sales. And we don't really like people using that service who haven't had used us for their book cover design.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
would say, if you're using us for covers, formatting makes a lot of sense. It's not crazy expensive. 200 is pretty reasonable for
It is. Yep.
somebody to go through your book line by line, hyphenate, all these different words
Yep.
and get rid of those orphans and widows and all those, like,
Make sure it
get it up
looks
to
good.
professional publishing standards, which is what we do.
Literally. I
Yeah.
yes, because I do it mine myself, and it's a pain. And most people really think that it's going to be like a snap of their fingers. I'm like, that's not how this works.
Yeah,
It's
for
really
sure.
a pain. So you either have to have patience, or you just $200 is a steal. Honestly, just for the
Yeah.
work that it costs. So again, we're gonna have the link in the show notes, but it is easy. It's 100covers.com, like 100covers.com.
Yes.
Very easy to get to. And then the link will be in the show notes. But thank you, Matt, for coming on and talking to us about covers. This is something that we need to keep hearing about, but we don't often hear about it, honestly, as authors.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's super important. It stunned me even to see like how impactful the right book cover is.
Yeah,
And because, I've been part of lots of failures publishing on
me too.
Amazon. The failure rate is very, very high. And to me, it's like I always use the word probability. I've used it two or three times already today. But if you can increase the probability
Hmm.
of your book success with the book cover, you know, that's nothing will improve your odds of success more than a really nice book cover that is piggybacking off of current trends. I
Yeah,
mean, it's really, really a powerful thing.
yeah, absolutely. I agree. Well, thank you so much for coming on and
Thank you,
talking to us
Kat.
today.